Abusua ye makwaba shonko so eba POG Media so ene yɛde mbɛkɔ highway ne so highway ne deɛ ensɛm bebree wɔ so a yɛn so yɛagye pene sɛ ɛbɛm yɛ abedwafoɔ no ahu deɛ ɛkɔ ɛne deɛ ɛba na dan na ɛkɔ so ɛwɔ highway ne so ɛyɛ aban Bagbin ɛna kyerɛ sɛ ɔde ensɛm bi aba abɛto dwa about 2024 elections no ama ɔatoto bi ama ne Electoral Commission EC boss a ɛnyɛ asɛm ketewa koraa na ɛyɛ aban Bagbin ɔkyerɛ sɛ there is fire on the mountain if sɛ J.Mensah anhyɛ na wantoto nneɛma yi a adeɛ a ebisi wɔ Ghana ase no na December elections no deɛ Ghanafoɔ n'ankasa no ɔmo ayɛ ready to vote out power ɛkyɛ sɛ ɔmo pɛ sɛ ɔmo tu Akuffo Addo ne n'aban yɛ den efiri so nti J.Mensah ne nneɛma no a ɔreyɛ no ɔnyɛ ne fɛnkyɛm na nneɛma no bi asisi ɛwɔ African countries a ɔmo ankasa no ɔmo ani tua even Ghana has say no some years back no ɔno ankasa n'ani ehu bi nti no J.Mensah ɛnhwɛ na ɔntoto ne nneɛma yi ɔde saa warning no akoma no a ɛnyɛ asɛm ketewa koraa san so ayɛ dɛn adrɔpe some information bi a ɛkyɛ sɛ J.Mensah pɛ sɛ ɔde regi elections abusua yɛbɛpɛ sɛ yɛbɛmi abedwafoɔ no bɛmi akɔ na yɛakɔ akɔtie nsɛm a ɛkɔɔ so na ansa na yɛbɛkɔ no nsɛm kan bi afa hyɛ yɛ comment section like share ma afoforɔ nso ɛnsa ntumi ɛnka bi medamase.
That you also heard the bit said by the former president, John Mahama, who is leading the opposition NDC, when he said, and he said it a number of times as well, that we will make sure that this election is not stolen, and this time we are not going to court. How did you understand this comment?
The first part deals with vigilance and ensuring that the right thing is done. That this time around, what happened in 2020, where brute force was used at some stations to take away the decision of the people, we will not allow that to happen again. Which meant that there's a loss of trust in the process and in the Electoral Commission. And so if the Electoral Commission is not going to take up the mantle together with the other stakeholders, particularly the security agencies, led by the Ghana Police Service. And note, it is not Ghana Police Force. It is Ghana Police Service. And they are to deal with the maintenance of law and order. And you don't just maintain law and order by force. No, that is not it. But unfortunately, that is where we are. And they are the key institution to maintain law and order. The military has no business, when we are doing elections, to be present until law and order breaks down and they are called in.
So you want them to stay off?
Completely. I have stated it a number of times that we would not want to see our military moving around. They have to be at positions that they could be called to intervene when the need arises.
But already you know that the military have been deployed. I mean, officials have been deployed to border towns to enforce even this ban on exportation of the country's grains because of the drought in 7 regions of the country.
That is catastrophic and a complete exaggeration of the situation, just to create a platform to go in for a facility. And who knows how that facility will be applied. That is my honest view.
What do you mean by facility?
A credit facility in terms of money or in terms of food items. Is that kind of thing?
The NDC thinks it's an attempt to intimidate voters around that place.
You see, people really don't understand the situation we are in. The Ghanaian voter can no longer be intimidated. We saw what happened in Kenya. We saw what happened in Nigeria. Ghana is not immune to it. I was a young man in Legon during the regime of President General Elec&Sm. And that was the time they brought in the MOWACs to support the police. They were blue in color. We faced the MOWACs with our bodies, not even with sticks, empty hands. Some of us were killed, but we fought and managed to turn this country to democratic Ghana. The people are not afraid. of the military. How many are they in this country? How many are the people? How many bullets do they have? How many were they killed? How many of them will survive? We've seen it before from country to country. So if there's any intention of using the military to threaten and intimidate the voter, they better think twice.
Have you spoken to the president or the defense minister about this?
I've drawn the attention of the Minister of Defense to some of these things earlier on. In fact, there were a number of times I made requests to lead a non-partisan national team of senior citizens, just because of my position as Speaker, to Boko, to try to intervene, to try and find solution to the problem there. And I been the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, the National Security Minister, a number of times, just to give me that opportunity. Well, I cannot go there without there are no objection. And I would have set up a team of stakeholders to go there, visit, and try to mediate. These overtures were denied.
Are there politicians flaming this conflict in Boko? Because it doesn't seem to go away.
Well, if you know the history, it has to do with chieftaincy. In fact, it had to do with rulership. Rulership. Who is in charge? That basically is part of politics. Okay? It's part of governance. And so you need people with that experience to be part and parcel of the mediation process. And I thought our intervention could have made a difference. I held a meeting with the members of parliament. They endorsed it. I held a meeting with some of the senior citizens from the area in Accra here. They endorsed it. And they all wanted to see me there. I had to call the Ghana Police Service to inform them. They were very happy about it. But the minister said no.
Why?
They gave some reasons that statements we could make there could inflame the situation.
And you disagreed with that?
I disagreed with them and said we are mature enough not to make such statements. And definitely, even when Yendi was in flames, at that time I was minority leader. I was the first to be in Yendi. The Yanas Palace was on fire when I got to Yendi. But I intervened. And I had to get the permission of the then Minister for Defense, Honorable Dr. Akuffo. And he sent a team to go with me. I had my team. And I intervened to calm down the situation before His Excellency President Akuffo could set up the commission. I didn't inflame passions. The parties tried, particularly the New Patriotic Party, to read politics into it, and they came up with some publications. But at the end of the day, they realized that it was a peace mission. And I succeeded. And that's how I got to know that one very well, because I moved to all the palaces of the paramount chiefs and personally interacted with them, listened to them, and calmed them out. And I met them at meetings, the youth, the women, the chiefs, and all stakeholders. I met the security agencies, the police, the military. It was a military operation Gongo. Okay? I met the prison service, the fire service. I interacted with all of them. And I met the displaced women and their children. And they mobilized resources to donate food items to support them. So we're able to bring down the tempers, to calm the situation.
And you were hoping to do the same thing in Boko, and you were denied.
I was denied.
But I want to stick to this year's election. Why do we seem to have such a polarized climate? I mean, beyond the comments that we've spoken about.
These are some of the areas that Professor Emmanuel Enin drew our attention to. How critical the 2024 election is to not just the peace and security of Ghana, but also the future of the country. If you look around the sub-region, Ghana is a peace oasis. We are the only country that is still seriously charting this course of democratic governance without the presence of the visible presence of terrorists. our northern border, our eastern border, our western border have all these troubles. And further north is worse. And so people are just waiting for an opportunity to come in. So there's a really essential and critical need for us to maintain the peace and security of the nation. That's basic. 2, the posture of the political parties, and you just mentioned the leaders and what they have stated, meant that all is not well. Therefore, the need for some impartial intervention to assure leaders and the parties that what the Electoral Commission is meant to and committed to doing is to ensure a free, fair, credible, and peaceful election. That loss of trust and credibility has to be restored, not by the Electoral Commission, but by stakeholders. The stakeholders are not only politicians or political parties. The public is involved. The media, particularly, a very critical partner is the media. The media makes and omits politicians and even countries. And so media is very critical in this aspect. And we need to go together. And that is why in Tamale, in the night before the lecture, I had to engage the regional media. And we had a very fruitful discussion on that. Their presence was massive, and the coverage was excellent. And so we need to go with the media. And more importantly, we need to get the voter. We have to get the voter to understand. One of the things that we've gotten wrong is that the countries that taught us about the franchise, okay, one man, one vote, direct democracy, where the opportunity to elect their leaders, are not practicing it themselves. And so when you go to the United States of America, it's not the voters that elect the president.
Electoral college.
Electoral college. People they believe understand the issues and have got a lot of stake. And therefore, you look for somebody that is generally seen as capable of leading the whole country. The same in the UK. That is not what is done. And for example, in the UK, there are no constitutional term limits. When the need arises, then there's an election. And the election is not just direct. There is a monarchy that is involved in deciding who should be the prime minister. So within about 2 years now, we've had how many? About 4 prime ministers.
Yes.
Could we have done that in Ghana? No. It's 4 years, and you actually waste a lot of capital, money that could have been invested in other sectors to grow the economy.
And we'll perhaps go into what a number of people are now talking about, which is constitutional democracy, and how perhaps we could implement that in Ghana. I believe that's something that you would have more knowledge to share on with us, and also regarding the stakeholders and how they can help bring trust in our electoral process. We are privileged to have a conversation with Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin. We've been talking about issues. Just stay with us. We'll be right back to help restore trust in the Electoral Commission and the processes. How do you foresee that, or how do you think that could be done?
Working together. It cannot be done by any institution or any individual. And more importantly, to gain back the trust and credibility of the Electoral Commission and the process cannot be done by the Electoral Commission. It has to be done by all the stakeholders together. And after the lecture in Tamale, the next event will be a roundtable discussion where we'll bring more of the stakeholders to Georgia, think together, and work together. Don't forget, the Electoral Commission, during the course of election, can in with a lot of casual employees. And most of these casual employees are ordinary citizens from various careers or professions that come to support the Electoral Commission. So the Electoral Commission mostly is not in a position to manage these huge numbers. And so it depends on our own value system. It depends on our own commitment to the democratic ideals, and particularly the patriotic spirit in us to die for Mother Ghana. That determines our conduct and behavior during the elections.
Has the EC conducted itself well ahead of this year's general election?
So far, the EC has been prevented from being seen as an impartial arbiter.
Prevented by who?
You could see the background of some of the employees and the statements that they have made. It doesn't place them in the position that this is going to be an unbiased referee. And that has affected the credibility of the Electoral Commission. Some of the directors have made clear statements about some of the political parties, trying to pitch the commission against those political parties and painting those political parties in such a way that they are the problem in the country and not any other person. That should not come from the mouth of somebody working in the Electoral Commission. But that is what we have now. And all calls to the powers that be, particularly government, to take action, because those were appointees by government, has fallen on deaf ears.
So when you say that the
so a party like the National Democratic Congress feels strongly that the Electoral Commission, as currently composed, is unfavorable to the party.
Beyond the directors, when you say that the EC has been prevented, do you mean the appointing body is preventing, as in the government, is
Yes.
preventing the EC from being a fair referee?
Exactly that. Exactly that. Apart from that, you have heard, even from civil society, allegations of some untoward things happening at the commission, missing of equipment.
The
And
BVDs.
as at today, at the lecture, lawyer Kofi Bentil still stressed that they believe strongly that what the Electoral Commission put out was incorrect, and that those equipment, plus what they said were disused equipment and had to be replaced.
Originally it said they were computers and not necessarily connected to anything.
Were actually not the true state of affairs. That is the view they still hold as at today. And so when you come to the parties themselves, there are these concerns they raised. And the Electoral Commission itself has come out to talk about lack of logistics and resources to do their work. These are all things that the establishment, the government, could take action to solve. If that is not being taken, then how can you build a trust? And so it's for all of us to coalesce, work together to make sure that the right thing is done before the election day. Or else, we're just playing with fire.
Which means what?
Well, anything could happen that day. And none of us is praying for that to happen. But if you go to the election and you see that the officials themselves will count up to 20 and the next ballot is 70, then you know you're in trouble.
How did you expect the Electoral Commission to handle the BVD issue, and also even recently when it actually accepted the fact that it had been wrong with the voter transfers to certain areas? It admitted fault. How did you expect the EC to address these?
Yes, I expect them definitely, when it's right, for them to come out to admit. The chairperson's representative came out loud and clear at the lecture in Tamale that in some of the cases they've taken action. They have arrested some of the officials. Investigations are going on, and they are likely to prosecute them because the prima facie evidence that some crimes have been committed, and they are likely to take action on that. These are some of the things that the people want to hear, okay? But just to always come out with a blanket denial, when you're dealing with the same human beings that live with us, and it's not the staff of the Electoral Commission is not made up of only persons from a political party. There are a lot of the members there who are non-partisan, okay, and committed to the cause of Mother Ghana. You may have a few from other parties there, but the situation that we have, the impression is created that the majority, particularly the leadership, are from people sympathetic to the ruling party.
So what I hear you say...
And that is what we want to try to erode from the minds of the people. And we need all stakeholders to come together to be able to do it.
What I hear you say, if I'm right, is that beyond the stakeholders coming on board to ensure that we are able to restore trust within the EC itself, through its leadership, must also prove that it is worthy of the trust Ghanaians want to repose in it.
Exactly that. And I was really very happy when I invited the chairperson to discuss this matter with. She was here in my office. We had a lengthy discussion, and I shared my views with her, which she accepted, and she promised to go by them. But we need to go beyond just discussion in my office, to reach out to the others. And we need to go beyond words into action. People should visibly see steps being taken to build trust in the system and in the institution, the Electoral Commission.
So that will be on the part of the Electoral Commission. But Parliament also plays a very crucial role. You're one of the third arms of government.
Sure.
And earlier you were talking about some of the things that you're championing yourself, including the Tamale bit, the Accra Sports Stadium bit that you're speaking about. And I think when we spoke before the interview, you even talked about a match that is being worked on in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
It's part of the processes.
That is
what else do you think you can do to ensure that we're building trust, we are building a wonderful atmosphere, peaceful atmosphere before, during, and after the elections?
Definitely, I'm still left with moving to the Council of State. I have a very good relationship with the chairperson of the Council of State. I will, through that connection, engage the Council of State, not me as an individual, but the institution of Parliament. Then we'll get an event with the media, because media is very critical in this matter. When we come together, then we organize this round table. This I'm talking about within these few months, because the election is just in December
7th.
And the most opportune period is before the climax of campaigns. So we don't have much time. And that is what I'm committing myself to do. After the discussions with the Council of State, and definitely these are elders, we'll have to see how, and some of them are our kings and queens. We'll have to see how we meet them. Okay, the traditional leaders, the spiritual leaders, and particularly the spiritual leaders.
When do you intend to have this council? Oh, sometimes. Please finish with that thought.
You know, there are some of the things that are beyond us. It's only our Creator that could intervene on our behalf. And therefore, we will need them to intervene on our behalf in these matters. And we now have to involve them to understand the situation. And they have much following than the political parties. And they have to reach out to their followers. And so we are trying as much as possible to expedite action in this. The constraints we have is one of funding. It's very serious. Because even Parliament itself, until this week, the third quarter releases for goods and services for Parliament to function was zero. We had nothing. And our debtors are no longer prepared to extend.
They are not being friendly with you now.
Credit facilities to us. And so that is a serious challenge, which I will try as much as possible to surmount as the leader of the institution of Parliament.
But when do you intend to have that meeting with the Council of Elders?
We are having a discussion as to the suitable date, because we want attendance to be good. we don't impose it on them. We have to get in touch with them to agree.
Right.
And they are closely just by us here. We are in the same presence.
Indeed.
So we can always have it. Even if we decide tomorrow and they all agree, we'll meet.
Right, Honorable Speaker, going into this year's general election, and that's my final question, you have some expectations of the media because we know what happened in Rwanda. We know or we hear stories about it. What exactly do you think the media should do to ensure that after or even before this election, the country is one piece? During the polls, it is one piece and will remain at peace after the polls.
The media needs no telling because the media knows the role they have to play. It's just that because of the modern trends and development in the media landscape, it's now very difficult to define who is a media person because citizens, journalists have developed. And so it will be a call to all of us, but more particularly those media practitioners, to do what is right. It's not easy because of lack of logistics, lack of resources, and also capacity. But we should all have clear conscience and focus on doing what is right for the country, not individuals, not parties. And the media should do all it can to hold the balance and be very vigilant to come out with what is right and what is wrong, and draw the attention because media shapes minds. And as I said, they make and unmake people and society. And so the media is very critical. It's an arm of government that we have for some time now not paid much attention to. And I believe the media is not just for private sector, because all the goods and services you provide are public goods and services. And so the public should have interest and the public should invest in the media. And so we need to really look at the legal framework that we have in the Constitution and try to strengthen the media to be able to hold all of us, including myself, to account.
What do you mean the public must strengthen the media? You mean the state or the government must invest in the media?
Well, where do the government get their resources from and their mandate? It's from the people. And so when you are able to get the people that educated and carried along, then it's easier for the government to implement that program or policy. That's what I meant by that.
Right, Honorable Speaker, your final words.
I pray, and not only pray, I'll work towards making sure that we rebuild the trust and credibility of the electoral process and the Electoral Commission. And that as Ghanaians who are all loyal to Ghana and patriotic citizens, we really rewind and focus on doing what is right. Ghana is our only dear nation, and we should all do everything possible to make it better for everybody to live in. With this, I want to once again emphasize the importance of the December 2024 elections. It's a critical election that could make or break our journey to the unending path of multi-party democracy. And so it's a plea to all. Please don't just think about today, think about tomorrow. Do your best to make sure that we have before, during, and after the election a nation called Ghana, our beloved country. If we are able to succeed this time around, we'll attract many more people to refocus and to invest in Ghana.
So you just watched right there the Right Honorable Speaker.
Bagbin and the warning no Akroma EC boss enye asam ketua kra or say abano say on percent enter one tower be abisi or Ghana hasia or she na onye bibia finchma na bibia ntumi entutu din na Electoral Commission honsam so no ɔde to dwa a ɛnyɛ asam ketewa koraa. Yɛbɛde abidwafo ase sɛ ɔmo gye pene kokotie saa audio no ɛde maa yɛ. Medam ase.